number one, I think we can all agree that leadership is everything in any organization, but particularly in sports. When teams win, we immediately point to strong leadership on the field, on the ice, by the coach, the organization, and vice versa. And the key to leadership, what I've learned over the last 30 years or so, is that it all starts with self-leadership, leading yourself, having an awareness about yourself. Because you have to lead you before you lead others. It's critically important. The exciting news that I have is based on research about the brain, which has been going on for the last 6, 7, 8 years quite intensely. We've learned a lot about self-awareness. And we have an exciting field now called NeuroLeadership. I've been working with individuals and teams now for the last 6, 7 years, and it's really exciting to see them start to develop their leadership skills and perform at higher levels. And really what the field is, we teach people how their brains work, how to take control over their brains, and use that knowledge to better lead yourself and others. Well, again, let me pick up on what I said before. Self-awareness and self-leadership is critical in order to develop yourself as a leader. So what at Myelin Leadership, what we've done is that we developed a process called RENEW, R-E-N-E-W. And in order to help you become more self-aware, it is critical that you understand how your brain works. Because once you start to understand how your brain works, you start to take control of it. And once you have that base knowledge, then we help you understand that you have self-defeating thoughts buried in your brain. Every single human being on the planet has that. And that usually emanates from trying or challenging events, usually in childhood and adolescent years. And as a result of perhaps being bullied as a kid or being left alone by your parents or being berated by a teacher, it happens to all of us. But the brain then encodes self-defeating messages such as, I'm not good enough or I'm a loser. Those become embedded in the brain and carry on into adulthood, which leads to self-defeating behaviors. So through the RENEW process, we teach you about how your brains work and how you can overcome that to develop that critical self-awareness to become the leader that you were destined to be. And I want to say, I have been working using neuroscience with my coaching clients and with teams for the last several years with incredible results. I'm also accredited by the NeuroLeadership Institute that's been doing the same work with organizations around the world, and the Herman Institute that's been doing this work since the 1980s. This is, in the 21st century, the state of the art of leadership development that we want to bring into sports. Well, yeah, we have to start getting over this false macho culture that we have in sports. And it goes back decades. It's male-oriented, but it also applies to some females as well. And what this macho culture is that it tells us that you have to be a man in order to lead. You have to be aggressive. You have to be dominant. You have to be domineering. And at the same time, we're taught that the expression of emotion is actually a sign of weakness, not to mention showing empathy. And that's completely false. That's based on false images, a false culture. And what we've learned through neuroscience and taking control of the brain is that our brains are highly emotional. So it's impossible to discourage the expression of emotion because the brain traps it there for survival reasons. And in essence, your ability to get in touch with your emotions, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, and it's a sign of courage. So if neuroscience has taught us anything, we've got to strip away the armor and all the false bravado that comes out of these macho cultures. And we've got to start understanding that our brains are emotional. And if you really want to develop into a leader and perform at peak performances, or at peak performance levels, then you really have to be comfortable with expressing emotions and being vulnerable, because this is the state of the art of leadership in the year 2020. We all have these defective brain messages based on past challenges and trauma. And so getting in touch with those happens to be an act of courage to understand who you really are, not backing away. In fact, I would say that's a sign of weakness when you back away. So it takes courage to get in touch and furthermore to tell those stories, because to tell those stories we feel vulnerable, but it's probably the most liberating thing that you could do. So I want to say that, again, we're redefining leadership in the 21st century, and that expressing emotions and vulnerability is a sign of courageous leadership. And I'll go one step further. The organization that starts using our brain knowledge and processes like Renew and understanding that the macho cultures are false and that there's a new way of doing things based on science, I'll go so far as to say that organization will develop a competitive advantage in which others in the sports world will want to become part of that, and you'll be able to retain people on the team, athletes on the team, because they're going to want to be part of something really special. So we're in a new world, and we're looking for who are the innovators out there that want to join us and join the work that we're doing based on neuroscience. It's really exciting.